Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 9th episode of CelebWorx Live, where we know the Kool-Aid Man is full of himself. I'm Christopher Arsaga.
I'm Nery Lemus. Thanks for joining us on a program where we've been in quarantine so long, we're busting our heads through walls screaming, "Oh yeah."
Before we bring on our special guest, we want to remind you that you can be automatically entered to win an autographed 8x10 from our special guest. All you have to do is share the live stream, and we will contact the winner after the show ends.
I'm excited to bring this talented client to the program. Brock Powell is known for the wall-smashing TV ad icon, the Kool-Aid Man. He's Drac in the Hotel Transylvania franchise when Adam Sandler decides he's taking a day off. Brock is Marshall Gorilla in One Punch Man, Whitaker in World War Z, the video game, Evil Protocol and the Sheep, and Big Hero 6 shorts. He has also done voices on Milo Murphy's Law, God of War, College Humor Originals. Recently, he was the voice of Hanbei the Undying in the Game of the Year for 2020, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Most importantly, he's a friend of mine and Chris. He puts the cool in Kool-Aid. He's my real-life Ghostbuster when I need him. Please welcome our friend, Brock Powell, the Kool-Aid Man, to the program.
Yay! There's my buddy Brock. Hey, Brock.
You don't mind, guys. I was getting a little parched. That intro was making me feel very chilly.
Thanks for joining us today, Brock. Hope you're okay with taking some questions.
Yeah.
Also, to the general public out there, if you have any questions for Brock or Nery and I, please post them on the official stream, and we will answer them if we can.
Let's do it.
So let's start it. How the hell are you? How are you handling the quarantine?
Oh, I think voiceover actors are kind of more adapted to this because we spend most of our life trapped in a tiny room making voices and being crazy,
Yeah.
Accompanied only by our thoughts.
Regular life, I see.
Yeah.
It's exactly.
I just get to get out, get even less sun, which is really bad for my social life, but really good for when I get to play Drac for Hotel Transylvania stuff. So, I'm getting into character. It's good. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, we're looking forward to the days where we could go back out and actually get some pie. And we've been trying to. Me and Brock have this pie thing. Nery probably doesn't even know this.
I don't even know about this.
Yeah, me and Brock have this thing. Like, we have a standing pie reservation at 4 and 20. Like, we want to go over and get some pie. And now this thing obviously is stopping us from getting pie.
We should just do it anyway. I was down there the other day because I'm trying to support local businesses as much as I can, which is my excuse for ordering out a lot. But you can pick up pies, Chris. I'll stay 6 feet away from you. Which with
we
that
can go to the park
order
or something and sit on two different benches or whatever.
We'll do it.
We'll invite you too, Nery, and you can just.
I'm glad you guys are standing by the restraining order, so that's perfect.
We respect that. Yeah.
Now, for a lot of our fans that are watching this, a lot of people are curious on how people start in the business.
Yeah.
How did you start in the business, and what age did you start your career?
My first voiceover job ever. So I've been acting for a long time. I've been acting on stage since I was 7 years old. Everything from community theater, I even got started in my local church when I was really young. Was the first thing I ever did. And then as I grew up, I've done regional theater and Shakespeare theater, and I went to college in Irvine and got my degree in theater and had planned to go to Broadway. That was the big dream. But throughout that whole time, voiceover work and impressions were something that had always really interested me, and it was something that I felt very, very sort of drawn in by. As long as I can remember, I was always doing impressions, and it mainly started as a thing to impress people and girls in high school at the lunch table. But we would sit around, there would be a bunch of us theater kids just doing impressions, and it was just a way to connect with my friends. But it wasn't until I was 14 or 15 and I was doing stand-up in Vegas that I realized that the impressions that I could do were a special skill set and a really great way to learn comedy chops and get more comfortable with being myself. A lot of times I would like to change my voice. Even as an actor today, I prefer to use character voices as opposed to my actual voice because it's easier to be someone else sometimes. So it was kind of a way that I connected with the world around me. Cartoons were something that helped me really get through a lot of tough times as a kid. And I had a huge affinity for Disney. So out of college, I got a job working as a sound-alike actor for a show called Turtle Talk with Crush with the Walt Disney Company at the Disneyland Resort.
I know the show. I love that show.
Yeah, you so totally rock.
It's one of the first interactive shows that Disney put in place. I'm impressed by it every time I go.
It's the people that I met during that process are lifelong friends. Actors that people would know, like Joe Hernandez is a friend of mine who I met there.
Oh, of course, he's from My Hero Academia, right?
Joe also does. He's I can't remember his character name. He's in Breath of the Wild and a ton of other stuff. Yes. And just a really, really incredible guy. Another voice actor is a friend of mine, Isaac Robinson Smith. We met through Turtle Talk. Chris Patstone, just literally like lifelong friends, people that continue to work and our paths cross, and I know them because of that. It was my first experience improvising for kids, which I have a big background in improv. I trained with Second City in Vegas and did a lot of sketch comedy. When I moved out here, I did sketch comedy actually with Fred Willard and Bill Farmer. And obviously we lost Fred yesterday, and that was, it was really hard. I think, not to bring down the tone of it, but I think what I was reminded of is how timeless entertainment is, how powerful it is, how much what we do really does affect people's lives.
Absolutely.
And people feel like they know you, and people feel like they do know you. They've been impacted by you. So it's a really amazing thing to do. And the longer I do voiceover, the more I appreciate the people that were like me when I was a kid, that look to these characters for strength in hard times, that resonate with these characters when they don't like themselves, that do impressions because they're not comfortable. And to say that I was a late bloomer, I mean, is really true. I really didn't feel like I had a footing on what I wanted to do with my life until I was in my mid-20s. And when I discovered voiceover and those doors opened and the opportunities started coming, every time I get to work on something, it's like, the best way I can explain it is my whole life, I felt like a goldfish in a carnival bag. You know, when you go to the carnivals and they used to have goldfish in Ziploc bags?
Yeah.
That was my life. I just thought that was it. They're just kind of like floating around waiting for people to come by and interact. And then voiceover came and I met these amazing people, and someone took me out of the bag and put me in the booth. And it was the first time I ever was like, oh, this is water. This is my element. This is all the things I grew up doing, all the things that I've been preparing for my entire life, improv and impressions.
And now you can swim.
Now I can swim. And so it's a really amazing community of people. And I mean, getting to know you guys and be friends with you guys and engage with the fans just makes it's a deeper level. I mean, it's like, I'm stepping all over myself because I'm so excited about what I do. I love what I do.
That's good though. That's the way it's supposed to be. I mean, Nery and I love what we do too. And it's, that's what ultimately that's like the goal. I mean, this actually leads to my question. When you were a kid, I mean, was that in fact your dream profession? I mean, being a voice actor, or was there something else where you had in the back of your mind, like, oh, that's what I want to do? But then as you went along, you were kind of like, no, this is kind of what I want to do.
I wanted to be a cartoon character. Like, I wanted to live in Toontown. I was obsessed with Roger Rabbit. Yeah, no, I really did. As a kid, there's all these pictures of me in Toontown at Disneyland because I was obsessed with the cartoon world.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember Bonkers? I love Bonkers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was obsessed with Bonkers because after Roger Rabbit came out, Disney and why can't I remember Spielberg's company?
Amblin.
DreamWorks?
Yep. No, before DreamWorks. Amblin.
Amblin, yeah.
Amblin and Disney could not come. You're right. They couldn't come to an agreement about who owned the rights to Roger Rabbit, so they created Bonkers, who was not quite Roger Rabbit, not quite Mickey Mouse, and was his own character. And I was obsessed because he was a cop that lived in Toontown and would, work all the beats. but I was obsessed with the voices. So I would watch that show time and time again. And the other show, Darkwing Duck. And after that, I was obsessed with Goof Troop, which obviously leads to a really interesting point in my
Absolutely.
Well, we'll get to that point.
Yeah.
That will be discussed at some point.
Yeah.
All I wanted to say was that I got Disney Plus, Chris. I don't know where you're going. I just wanted to say I got Disney Plus. That's all I was going to
I see. I have Disney Plus too.
What was your first gig as a professional voice actor?
I was 15 years old. The first ever thing I got paid to do voiceover for was doing an impression of Louis Armstrong at the Riviera. There was a jazz band, and they had an impersonator who was supposed to do The Saints Go Marching In. Something happened. That person wasn't available, and best I can remember, one of the people in the band was my high school band teacher. I wasn't in band, but I was in choir, and they shared a room. And so this teacher, I believe it was Mr. Schlicker. Teachers have great names. Have you ever run out of characters?
I know.
Like
you
going
just
back to
go back to a teacher. I agree completely.
Names. So Mr. Schlicker, I believe, was in this band and knew that I could do a Louis Armstrong impression. And so the first thing I ever got paid to do was Satchmo ever. So
Shut up! That's so cool.
just doing. Oh, when the Saints go marching in. Oh, when the Saints go marching in. It's been a long time, but
it's great.
That's really good, Brock.
Oh, I mean, I don't do it much anymore, but yeah, that was the first one.
It's funny because I keep looking at the feed, of people writing comments on the side, and Bill just put, Christopher, who keeps walking behind you? And it just freaked me out because I was getting ready to turn around and start looking around like, there's somebody in here.
Who is walking behind you?
He's messing with you. He's messing with you. And Kenny James says hi and oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. Hi, Kenny. Right back at you. Wait.
So
can I show Kenny what I have behind me?
Yes.
It's getting framed, Kenny. So, oh yeah, and Bowser's catchphrase, as best I know, is blah. So right back at you.
I'm glad that you showed it to him, because when I tell clients, hey, somebody wants an autograph, you need to sign something for someone, I don't think they ever believed that I gave it to the person. So
he really did. He charged me $20. It was a really good deal.
It was the best $20 I ever spent. So
Brock, growing up, I know what your fandom was. I mean, you just explained it, but did you collect anything with your fandoms? I always like to bring up collections.
Yeah.
That's who I am. Did you collect toys or baseball cards or anything like that?
Yeah, action figures, comic books, Pokemon cards. I had a huge Pokemon card collection.
Yeah, Charizard.
I was named Brock, and that was one of the gym leaders.
Oh yeah,
so you had to be interested, and it's still
no one likes the Pokemon humans. No one does. It's all about Pikachu and Charmander. And
whoa! What about Bulbasaur? Client.
Bulbasaur, of course.
Yeah, we love Bulbasaur.
Bulbasaur's the best. I always started with Squirtle. Squirtle. Yeah, to this day, that's a franchise I never got to work on, by the way. I've always wanted to work on a Pokemon thing.
Don't worry, you'll have plenty of time. It's going to go on for the next 100 years. So
we'll send this interview to them, and that'll totally persuade them.
Yeah, just edit out every time I say Pokemon by mistake. Just fix
Pokemon.
We will. Cool.
Mom used to say it. Pokemon.
Pokemon. Yeah, I collected a ton of action figures. I was really big into Ninja Turtles. I had all the turtle stuff.
Yeah.
And not to turn this into just a constant, I'm working on this, but 2 weeks ago, I had an episode of the new Ninja Turtle show, Rise of the TMNT premiere that I was in, which was a huge deal because I'm such a big shellhead.
Yeah.
I got directed by Rob Paulson, which was a dream come true.
It's been trippy. It's like full circle,
Super full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It was crazy. Yeah.
That's
now,
cool, man.
You're known for your impressions. You make me laugh at everything we ever do, and at dinner. What are some of your favorite impressions? And I'm cueing one impression that you get paid the most for. So,
I have a feeling that I know which one is.
It's Donald Trump.
It's related to orange Kool-Aid.
As soon as you said I was paid the most for it, I knew exactly who it was, Nery. I can show you my taxes. They're tied up. Michael has them. Flynn, good guy. He's a good guy, not a crook. First of all, COVID-19, got to tell you, not a fan of sequels. Haven't seen the other ones. Not sure what's going to happen.
What are some
Oh,
of your other favorites? You've got a ton. I mean, you did Bernie Sanders for me,
For
so
a project, I did, didn't I?
that was exceptional, and thank you so much. I love you for it forever. So,
Nery, I still have not received the Venmo for $27.
It's coming.
Good.
It's coming. It's
Feel the
coming.
burn. I actually got to work on a project that never saw the light of day. That was they were the last election. It was puppet dolls. They were punching presidential dolls, and I got to voice this Bernie Sanders puppet doll. And my best friend Austin actually has all the sound from it still that he'll put into things randomly. Because if you've not lived until you've like heard Bernie Sanders like taking a hit, like, and that's where the acting comes in, is because you really have to think to yourself, okay, like Bernie Sanders is how old is in his late 70s, 80?
Yeah, it's late 70s, 76, I think is how old he is.
So like what would that sound like if he really got cracked by Hillary Clinton across the jaw, and you had to really ask yourself?
It'd be pretty bad.
I'm so glad that you internalized the thought process behind it smacked.
Is it those dolls where you put your hand in and then they just go like this?
Exactly.
Oh, I love those dolls.
No.
As a kid, I thought those things were the greatest.
No, they were really, it was a really cool project.
You've done some other great impressions though. So like you've done Doc Brown. You can do one of the Ghostbusters.
I have.
We went to Universal to hear your Ghostbusters.
Absolutely.
That's right. So I this last year I collaborated with Sony, Ghost Corps, and Universal to be the voice of Ray Stantz and Pete Venkman for the Halloween Horror Nights maze, which was a incredible dream come true. I got approved by Dan Aykroyd to sound like Dan Aykroyd, which is like,
that's so cool.
Goosebumps. Because you guys remember that I went to that Ghostbuster Fan Fest before that gig happened, and I met Dan there.
Yeah, no, I think it's once again one of those full circle moments in your life. You know,
hopefully not the last time I get to work on a Ghostbusters thing. I'm just putting it out there. But
and I'm not just saying this because you're on. I literally said this to everybody else. That was my favorite maze that year. Like I thought it was the most well done. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Chris showed me the clip because I'm a bit of a scaredy cat when it comes to.
We couldn't get Nery to go.
You couldn't, yeah. So he showed me the clip, and I said, "That's Brock. I can't believe it. It sounds just like them. You know, like they took it from the movie." I'm like, "That's crazy."
Thanks, man. Yeah. Well, it helps when you've seen a movie 100 times because voice matching is a little different than impressions. When you're doing an impression of somebody, you have a little more of a creative license. Like if you put my voice of Donald Trump up against Donald Trump, I'm taking a lot of liberties, and I'm having fun with it, and I'm doing.
Well, you're exaggerating the craziness, is what you're doing.
You're using the voice to exaggerate the character and to accentuate the really nasty or cool things about a character. To do voice matching, like I've done for Adam Sandler and Bill Murray and some other actors, Josh Gad. Whenever I get to do sound-alike work, it's really about trying to think about how that actor in that role would do it, because now you're not just married to the sound of the music. If you're doing specific lines from the movie, I also got to work with Disney Consumer Products and did a line of Star Wars toys. Where I got to be Chris. I think I told you this. I got to voice match Luke Skywalker and Han Solo.
You did tell me
Admiral Akbar. It was really
Can
cool.
you do Han Solo, or is it?
It's hard. It's a tough
one. Or
one.
is it one of those Neil Ross things where they basically said, "Hey, we need you to do this product," and they don't even voice match you to Harrison Ford?
No, did Neil Ross do Harrison Ford?
He did Han Solo in numerous video games.
A video game in the 90s.
He did Shadows of the Empire?
No, Masters of Terra Kasai.
He was Han Solo in the Masters of Terra
and Boba Fett. Yeah, and Boba Fett too.
And he did Boba Fett.
That's so funny. Well, Bill Farmer was Emperor Palpatine in.
I know. Yeah, and
that's true.
Video games. Yeah,
that's funny because that leads me to my next question.
I'm
always waiting for the cues. I'm like, hey, there's a cue.
There's a cue.
So that leads me to my next question, which is your mentor. I understand he's a little goofy, isn't he?
He is. He's very goofy. So I was mentored by Bill Farmer when I first got started, and now I'm really happy to say that it's gone from mentorship to friendship, and he and his whole family have been so kind and welcoming, and are basically my family. And I love them all very deeply and was very lucky to learn from someone who is not just a great actor, but a good person. Because I think when you're getting started in the business,
Yep.
And Nery, you can attest to this, there's a certain level of eagerness that opens a lot of doors. And being eager, I think, was a thing that was very big for me. But as
Speak
I've
for
gone on,
yourself. I was never that eager.
I'm sorry, that just hit me weird because it's like Nery's really eager.
Absolutely. No, I understand completely what you're saying. And
you know what I'm saying?
when you're starting a business, it's fake it till you make it. You gotta do what you can to make yourself basically blast through those doors screaming, "Oh yeah, that's what you have to do."
That's it. And
Yeah.
it gets you pretty far. I mean, eagerness gets you pretty far, but I think knowing that
There are
you
a couple other
belong,
things that get you pretty far, but we won't go into those.
knowing that you belong at the table and have a seat at the table, I think is really important. But Bill taught me one of the most important things, which is, and these are his words, so I'm not at all saying that this is my wisdom. This is his. Voice actors are plumbers. We have a job to do, and you come in and you do the job, and you're easy to work with, and you're kind. But it's not personal. If you don't get it, it's just you didn't fix their problem, and it's not. So, and it's because of that every session I have, my butt crack is slightly exposed because of that advice. No, it's helped give me a little bit of a tougher skin, I think, when it comes to just doing this, because it is just about it's not personal.
One of those things, and I think you said it perfectly, the eagerness, I just want to go back to that a bit. It's not only eagerness, it's about being hungry and making sure that you want what you're going for.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things when people want to get in this business or any business, they say, well, how do I do it? Well, you got to throw yourself onto the fire. And sometimes you'll get burned, but when you back up and heal, just get yourself back into the fire. And that's the key. If you've got that drive, if you've got that hunger, you can make anything a success. It's just you have to put dedication on it. And that's something you do constantly.
It's 100%
you're constantly throwing yourself
sure.
back on the horse. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Because I think about it in the fact of almost anything that you do. I mean, anybody can say they want to do something,
Absolutely.
but it's whether or not you're going to get out of your seat and actually go do what it actually takes. And it's funny because, I mean, this is no offense to anybody out there, but I mean, Nery and I hear this more than anybody, because when we go to shows, we're with our clients. Every show, there's always somebody that comes up and they go, "Oh, I want to get into voice acting and blah, blah, blah." And it's like, oh, that's cool, that's great, but we're going to tell you how to do it, but you really have to go do it. You actually have to go and do what we say.
And I'll tell you something that I think is interesting, and it happens every time. Now, for people that don't know, I recently just lost a lot of weight. It was a life-changing thing for me, but a lot of people ask, Nery, how did you do it? And I said, okay, I will sit down and tell you. And I sit down and I tell them everything, and I look at their face and they go, oh, I have to do that?
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it. Yeah. You got to. I mean, you got to put in that kind of dedication. You got to put in that kind of work to get where you want. And that's the key in this business, the key to life, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to keep looping back into that, but for people who want to do something and you're passionate, that's the key, is really throw yourself into it.
Yeah.
I would bounce off that and take it one step further, which is one of the things that I found has been a key to success for me is actually being a fan of my work. Not my work personally, but like a fan of the voiceover industry.
Right.
Being a fan first has given me such a leg up in a lot of arenas. Not just because I consume cartoons and I love cartoons and I have a library of pop culture and media in my head. It gives me a certain level of understanding and respect for the people that came before me and are still working today. So that when I'm in a scenario which this has happened, I'm in a callback and I'm meeting Frank Welker.
Oof.
At a callback, there's a certain level of knowing who he is and the work, and a certain level of confidence that has to come to say, I'm in a room here with literally the top dog. He voices Scooby-Doo, so I'm going to go ahead and say
Absolutely.
that. Especially when it comes to creature voices. But it was being a fan that, in a weird Slumdog Millionaire thing, being a fan of the things that I'm a fan of, they come full circle. So the opportunity to do the Ghostbusters sound alike, to bring it back to that really quick, I watch that movie whenever I'm sad. And I have clinical depression, so I watch that movie a lot. And I love that movie. It makes me very happy. There was a really quick turnaround, and the sound designer for the attraction came to me first and just said, any chance you could do an impression of these two characters? And I literally, driving down to Comic-Con on my phone, popped into a full torso apparition. Oh, it can't be. It's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
Yeah.
He slimed me. So it was the knowledge of not just those character voices and those characters and the original actors, but it was also the knowledge of Frank Welker did Dan Aykroyd in The Real Ghostbusters. Lorenzo Music and Dave Coulier did Bill Murray. I can't get really
did
Egon. Yeah.
Egon. Yeah.
And Mo's a good friend of mine. In fact, when quarantine started, I was sending him pictures back to the fan thing of my Real Ghostbusters collection because I recently just re-binged it. To be, and I say peer very lightly, but to be a peer of these people that are my heroes, and to have a working knowledge of not just the legacy of the characters, but the legacy of the actors that came before me.
I'm so glad you said that, because there's so many actors, Brock, that are, okay. I'm going to go into a little bit of inside baseball.
Let's do it. A lot of
people wonder why Chris and I only, try to represent some of the older legacy actors, people that are iconic.
Alan Oppenheimer.
There is no business without these people. There is nobody. And talking about our business, Chris and I were fans before we started representing these people. Chris and I do not represent people generally that we're not fans of or fans of their genre in some way.
Right.
That's how we're successful in this business.
I agree.
If you don't enjoy doing what you do, you've already failed from the start. You're not going to be able to get you're not going to be able to get ahead. Well, and that's the key.
And what's interesting too, Nery, when you go back and you realize, because now I'm at the level where, and I feel incredibly fortunate. People ask me for voiceover advice, how to get started. And I teach voiceover classes to kids and people who are second career actors, who are coming from other industries and wanting to give it a go. And it lights such a fire in me to encourage other people, because I was so encouraged by Bill, by the amazing people at Disney, by the amazing people at Nickelodeon, by all of these people in my life. And not just the industry people, but my friends and my family. And, the love and the support to realize that we are all fans of each other has given me such a light. And it's kind of my life goal now to continue to be a fan of people getting into this. I try to really support people and get them really excited about getting started. But when you look back at the legacy of how things started and who it started with and who was doing what, you start to see the dots get connected. And for me, I get really excited because it's kind of like an MCU thing. Like with voiceover, there were 8 people. Early voiceover, 1937. The first voice actor in 1928 was Walt Disney. He was the first voice actor. Forward now to, it's a relatively young industry, which means that if you're getting into it now and you can teach yourself and educate yourself and immerse yourself in it, you're going to be pretty quick to being an expert pretty fast.
And I'm going to say another thing is that people are so worried about being somebody else. Be you.
Be you.
Be the first you.
You're going to be the first you. That's the most important thing. And that's how I apply whatever I do. Somebody said, well, this person did that. I'm like, I don't care what they did. I want to do what I do.
Yeah.
I love that. What people need to know, is you do you better than anybody.
I think that's exactly it, Nery. And like and it's ironic because as a person that gets paid to sound like other people a lot, I'm still bringing me to it. So
to every role, it's a part of you. Yes.
So even when I'm being asked to do an impression, or I'm asked to match an actor, Dracula is a great example. I jokingly call myself Backup Drac. It is one of my favorite characters to play because Adam has done such an amazing job in building a really funny character. Getting to work with Gendy Tartovsky, getting to work with Sony. Anytime I get to work with that team, I'm just over the moon. but I do it a little differently. I bring a little of my own sensibility to it. I'm a huge Monster fan. Chris, I don't know if you remember, but when we were at that con in October, I have it right here. I remember we met the Lugosi family.
Oh yeah.
And I bought the
that's so
Dracula
cool.
pomade. I used this. This is the
Wow.
actual pomade that Bela Lugosi's family. This is his actual formula
That is so
of what
cool.
of what made his hair slick back. And people don't know this, but I use it for real. I love it. But I'm a huge fan of monsters, and so I do a lot of creature work. I've gotten to work with D. Bradley Baker, who's one of my heroes. We've gotten to work on a bunch of different projects.
Speaking of people that want to be voice actors, D. Bradley Baker has a great site called iwannabeavoiceactor.com. So if you guys are looking to be in the industry, or that's something that you might be leaning towards, go to iwannabeavoiceactor.com, and it's run by D. Bradley Baker, and it sort of gives you a start to finish kind of what to do. And, you got to be dedicated. That's the key.
There's a lot of free things you can do too, which D really encourages people: reading out loud, watching cartoons, chasing things. If you hear something on the radio, repeat it back. Sorry, Chris.
Oh, no. It's cool. I was actually going to go back a step and
we
kind
can't.
of touch on something that
we
were talking about people, wanting to get in the business and all that good stuff, and being like, get off your butt and do it. Yeah. Nery and I kind of have this thing because of what we do. A lot of people just assume that they can do it. Now, here's the thing. Not everybody can do everything. I can't go and operate on somebody's brain. I never will, because I don't have that kind of, capacity to do that. Yeah. But a lot of people, when they do things and they get that gung-ho attitude, sometimes that's a detriment. Like, you have to be stealthy in what you do also. Like, you can't just go, oh, I'm going to do this 100% and blah, blah, blah. You have to learn how to pump the brakes sometimes. And so
humility is key. I mean, that's another thing is people need to learn how to be humble.
Yeah, you have to remember also that there's certain, because, like, for example, when Nery and I first started this, doing what we're doing, there would be no CelebWorx without me meeting Pat Fraley for the first time. And when I met him and I got the idea of doing it, we got Pat. And one of the things that I made sure of was, hey, look, you're not working with anybody else, are you? And he was like, no, I'm not doing this at all. And I was like, good, because I don't want to encroach on somebody else's, territory or whatever. I don't want to make somebody angry right off the bat. And from there, Nery and I are very strategic about what we did. I mean, you can, Nery, right? I mean,
I'll tell you what it was. I mean, essentially, when it's funny because he's going to be our guest next week. When we got Pat Fraley, he offered us Lauren Lester, which for us, Chris and I are huge Batman animated series fans.
Come on.
So we were like, okay, that's going to help us with that cast. So, okay, Lauren was terrific.
And he wasn't working with anybody. We made sure he wasn't working with anybody.
Right. And we said to Lauren, how about Michael Bell? We knew that Michael Bell would be one of the keys to the entire kingdom. And if for anybody that doesn't know Michael Bell's work, please tune in next Thursday at 5 p.m. Mike's going to be doing the show with us.
Shameless plug.
A shameless plug. But he is a voiceover icon. And if you grew up in the 80s, the 90s, there's not a single person that is living that did not hear Michael Bell growing up.
Come on.
It's funny that you got to that point, because now Michael, at the time, we had no idea, but Michael was actually represented by someone else. And we made sure still, we said, look, make sure if you want to work with us, which he was very hesitant to work with us in the first place.
Absolutely. That's going to be a fun story. So tune in Thursday.
But we actually won him over, and his other manager and Nery and I, we're all really good friends. Like, we are really good friends. At the time, he didn't really know us, but we made sure that everything was cool. Like, we didn't want anybody to be angry at us. So the point of everything is yes, be gung-ho, but also learn how to, like, be strategic in your thoughts, in what you do. Make sure that you dot your I's, and cross your T's, and make sure that you do everything the right way. Have, some decorum about yourself, because I think that's really important. And literally almost any business that you're in, like, you want to be that person, be immaculate, Yeah. And I'm sure it's the same for voiceover. You don't want to do that. You don't want to step on anybody's toes. You don't want to take over a character that somebody else did and then they're upset about it,
Right. And that's the same that goes for the voiceover industry. Do not do characters that other people have done. If they're currently doing them, that's a big no-no. And I'm going to circle this back. And essentially, when we signed Michael Bell on, we were fans of his. I actually had met Michael Bell numerous times before we had a company. And I have photos from when I was just a fan meeting him at like 15. And I showed it to him. And I showed him now. And then we screamed going, oh my God, what the hell happened to us? But I'm just trying to say that we were fans of these people. Yeah. So sometimes in a good way, you have to drink the Kool-Aid, right? Yeah. And you have to. You got to drink the Kool-Aid, go for it, full circle. And that's where I'm going to bring up, what was the process of auditioning for the Kool-Aid Man?
Nery, that was seamless.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I pride myself on that.
That was so good. So I had to audition for the Kool-Aid Man twice. I did not get booked as the Kool-Aid Man initially. They went with another actor for a while. Then the part went back out. And it was funny because they did the thing that a lot of brands do, which is it's the character you know and love, but slightly different. And I worked as a copywriter for a while. I worked a little bit in advertising. I love advertising. It is literally my job as a commercial voice actor. Like, advertising is my bread and butter. Michael Bell was the voice of butter. Commercials pay our bills.
Butter.
It's animation that lights the fire and like fills your soul. But I have such a respect for commercial. So I understand that in an age where artificial flavors aren't super popular right now, that selling a product that could be seen in a certain way was really important to them to show that this was Kool-Aid in a new light. And it was made with less artificial stuff. It was part of, like, I basically did a series of commercials that were Kool-Aid Man hiking and camping and rowing the boat and showing that you can enjoy Kool-Aid in the summer and you can enjoy Kool-Aid when you're doing other stuff, and more about like being active rather than just like back in the 90s. Remember the Kool-Aid Man had the mansion, and it was like the CGI Kool-Aid fountain, and it was like the Playboy Mansion but with Kool-Aid. It was very strange. So now they're past that. Kool-Aid's doing his thing. They made us audition with 2 words, and I joke the Kool-Aid Man is like the Hodor of advertising because he only says, "Oh yeah." So through the audition, they wanted us jumping on a trampoline. They wanted us underwater. They wanted us talking to birds. So I had to figure out how to do like, but like basically like doing stuff like that. It was insane. It was absolutely insane. And at the end, the audition that got selected was one that I actually did with Bill and my best friend Austin, and we recorded it together. And submitted it, forgot about it, and about 2 months later, I got the call, and I worked with them for about 4 or 5 years. It was great. Just one of my earliest commercial relationships, and so much fun, and I love the brand, and just always excited to see that character out and about.
That's so funny. I that kind of leads me to, I think this is probably the most important question that we will ask you literally the entire show. So you have to understand, this is like huge. What's your favorite Kool-Aid flavor?
Well, I'm currently drinking Purple Source Rex.
If it was high C, if it was high C, I'd know your answer right away. But
no, Acto Cooler, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Razzleberry. It's the one where the Kool-Aid guy's riding the shark with the sunglasses.
Oh yeah, Razzleberry.
I don't know what Razzleberry is, but I definitely, if I could drink it, I would have one.
It's nothing like Snosberry, so you're good.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, you were talking about how you had to sort of mimic the Kool-Aid Man underwater. You know, there's a voiceover technique where you flap the lips, right? And of course,
Michael Bell and I talked about this story.
Yeah, and it's a great story. And I don't want to loop back to Frank Welker and Michael Bell.
No, but do.
Michael Bell was in a recording session, and he would, take cups of water like you did and just, do the gargling,
How was
voiceover. And he's sitting in a session, and Frank Welker comes in, and they're having him do the same thing for the snorks. And, Frank goes, oh, does this thing. And he goes, Frank, what the hell? I'm over here drowning and you're doing that? That's easy. He goes, well, I don't want to take away from your thunder.
Yeah.
So it's hilarious, So I'm glad that there's little things that you can do that people can teach you basically when you're watching others. So that's another thing is watch people. If you want to be in this industry, watch what other people are doing too.
Yeah,
So,
and that's the thing, listening and watching and learning what other people are doing. And Chris, back to your point earlier about like, keep your head down, do the work. Social media has really changed the way actors approach the work. They're so quick to, and we're all guilty of it. You're so quick to get a character that you can post about and be excited about. But the thing that I've learned is if you get excited about every single gig that you have and every single job that you have, it risks communicating to the audience and clients and people in your life that you don't work that much. Because if you have the same level of like, I got a job. If it is just your job that you love very much, just keep your head down and let the work build itself up. Ira Glass, who I adore, hosted This American Life, has a thing called The Gap, which is talking to people getting started in any industry. The thing that gets you into the thing that you love, like us and voice actors, is you have incredible taste. You have great taste. But when you start out, the things that you're making aren't very good. And I'm quoting this verbatim. The things that you're making are lacking the flavor that your great taste has. But it doesn't mean you're bad. It just means that your taste is excellent and your skill level isn't yet. So how do you close that gap? You do a huge body of work. And so for voiceover, you audition. You do every single thing you can. You go, and this is advice to people getting started. You record yourself. You start doing everything from community announcements. You do voicemails. You do IVR for your uncle's grandpa's dentist. You do everything you can to close that gap. But most importantly, you keep your head down so that when you have the body of work, you pop out of nowhere and you got blammo, 10 things, and people are like, who the heck is this person? This guy or gal, overnight success. It took you a long time. But if you keep your head down and you work hard, that's always going to pay off.
Absolutely.
That's a lesson I had to learn the hard way. So
I think a lot of people, though, have to learn that the hard way. So now, looping back to Kool-Aid, you said you were doing it for numerous years. Do you know how many total commercials you ended up?
No, I would say that probably it was over a dozen commercials, and they ran them a lot. They would cut them.
Oh, yeah, I know. I mean, every time I would see it, I go, there's Brock, so I know it completely.
The one that ran the most was getting to work with Flo in the Progressive commercial, which was really cool.
That's awesome.
The hardest part was explaining to my grandma that I was not in the suit because she was like convinced I met Flo. She was like, what was she like? I was like, well,
I wasn't there.
I wasn't there. Was that heavy? Is the bowl heavy? Grandma, I was not in the bowl.
You know that she shops at Gelson's. So if she's ever
she?
there, I'll call you. I'll be like, come over.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay.
So I want to talk about something that you did that I like a lot.
What's that?
It's a video game called Sekiro. I love this game so much. Seriously, it's so awesome, and you're such a good part in it.
Oh, dude, thanks, man.
And you signed mine because remember when you came over?
Yeah, I remember.
You were like, "Hey, that's the game. You want me to sign it?" I'm like, "Duh."
Still waiting for that Venmo.
I know, huh? So my question is how did you get the role? And then on top of that, are you a gamer, and what games do you play?
The role was under a different code name, so had no idea that it was Sekiro. At the time, Activision had been really tight-lipped about the project. Knew it was the follow-up to Dark Souls, obviously.
Yeah.
Once I found out about it, but got to work with the team. Audition for every part in the game. Audition for every single part, and then they were localizing it because it's obviously has Japanese actors first, and then the English dubbing cast. And when they told me that they wanted me to play this, we didn't have character names at first. We weren't given all the information. So I had a mortal soldier, and all I knew was it was this character that was basically cursed with life, kind of similar to Barbossa in Pirates. It was like this Half-Life kind of character. And I think that was really intriguing to me because, again, back to taking your personal stuff and bringing yourself to a role. being somebody who in his life has suffered from depression, which feels very much like that very feeling where you're alive but not quite living because you're just sad and hollow, and those nasty things that happen with a mental illness. I feel like honestly that was kind of the thing that I brought to it that hopefully people resonated with, but at least for me made playing the part and auditioning for the part so cathartic and rewarding.
Right.
And he's funny. He's really funny, and it was really
He's
funny.
great.
It was funny to play a character that is, if you know me, I'm very animated, and those sessions, Dara Farrell, who does a ton of stuff for Lucasfilm, has directed most of the Old Republic games, is incredible director. Had to really pull me back because I'm very animated, but the stuff that we got out of that, just the dry, wry humor of nice try again. I almost felt that one.
Yeah, I almost felt that one. Yeah.
It hilarious and it's super fun to play. And into your second question, I am a gamer. I mainly play retro games. I really love classic like Sega games, old 8-bit games. And I'll announce it here. I'm starting to work on a Twitch channel that's going to be me playing old games and doing voices over them.
That's gonna be great.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's going to be pretty cool. And the big reason is it helps me actually enjoy playing the games. And then when I play modern games, sometimes it kind of buzzes the work brain because I think, oh, that's, that's Darren DePaul, or that's da-da-da.
That leads to my next question. What's your favorite game that you're not in?
That's a great question.
That's a really good question.
Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, good.
Of course. I see he's plugging the goofy angle. I get it.
No, but for real and for true, it actually is Kingdom Hearts.
Now, did you enjoy the entire series? Because there's 1, 2, and 3.
I played all of them. I played all of the 1, 2, 3, and then the side calls like 378 days, Dream Drop Distance.
1.5. Yeah,
I played the mobile games. I'm the guy who played the cell phone. There was a Kingdom Hearts game for the Samsung cell phone. I played every single one. It's really gross. It's gross.
What?
Well, you said Samsung and not Apple, so that I immediately knew it was gross.
I've never played the first one, believe it or not.
Really?
Why? Yeah, I played the second one and I played the third one, but those are the only two that I played out of the whole franchise. But two was amazing, and I think 3 is great too because our friend Boo's in it.
Yeah, Mary Gibbs. They actually reused some of the dialogue from Monsters Inc. And unfortunately, we just lost Rob Gibbs, and that was really heartbreaking for our entire company. And Brock, you fortunately got to meet Mary and Rob at one of their last appearances.
Yeah.
In LA.
I wanted to share this, so thanks for bringing that. The thing I was talking about being a fan of someone. Monsters Inc. had a huge impact on me. I love that movie. I know so many people do. And Rob and I had one conversation. We met at Pasadena Comic-Con. And so full of life, so kind. And I remember he came up and he was getting autographs for me, which was really weird because I'm like, no, man, I'm the fan of you. Don't do that. That's weird. But he was, it was just obvious like he was such an artist and a kind spirit, and a great dad. And you just knew that instantly. So when I was signing with Rob and Mary, Rob came over and he actually drew this, which is the Kool-Aid Man,
so cool, man.
So cool.
Bursting into Monstropolis, which is just
that's so cool.
The best. So yeah, it was. That's going to get framed and go into the studio because that's definitely a lifetime.
He was tremendous. He was such a nice guy.
Absolutely. And one of the things with Rob is that you could walk up to him and he was just genuine. He's one of those people in your life that you would just, when you talk to him, you could just feel the warmth. And that is such a rare quality to have, in anybody. And he just exuded warmth and he really did love what he did. And he was funny, and we're gonna miss him terribly.
He had zero ego, like
no
zero, like nothing at all, no ego at all about it. Like he was amazing, and at what he did.
it's people like him that I strive to be in life, you know, with no ego, the humility, and just the ability to sort of make people feel loved,
Yeah.
which he had. And I'm going to miss seeing him. And, you know, Chris and I couldn't talk about it in the last few weeks because, you know, it's something difficult to talk about. But I'm going to miss seeing him at Bob's Big Boy at night. I would run into him at the supermarket. It's going to be really tough to not see him around. And thankfully, you know, his daughter, our client, Mary Gibbs, she's still going to be doing shows with us. And, you know, our heart goes out to her and her family. And,
Yeah.
you know, I'm just glad you got to meet him, Brock.
Yeah, I mean, truly, it was an honor, and I look forward to getting to hang out with Mary again, and signing, and we came up with we were signing things as Kool-Aid instead of Kool-Aid. Hilarious. Yeah, I mean, obviously, this season right now for so many people has been so hard.
Yeah.
But I'm blown away at how the human spirit is just craving story, craving connection, and it kind of just brings me back to the thing of like what we do is so important, not just to the fans, but also to us. I know that I'm still working on projects. I've been recording a video game from my house. I recorded a series that's going to be out from my house. It's coming out in July. It's been crazy. I mean, it's just when you do what you love, it's totally life giving. And I was just going to say again, back to anyone who wants to like get into this, it is so accessible. And I'm one of the first people to tell people I think there is room in the pool for everybody.
Yeah.
Voiceover is becoming a market of great numbers and big odds. But if you're patient and you love it, you will have an opportunity. You will. And I tell people that want to get started, it's like trick or treating. The only thing you can focus on is putting your costume together and go knock on the doors. You can't worry about which neighborhood has the big king size Baby Ruths, and you can't worry about when they don't answer the door. You just go back around. You try again later.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to do that and focus on yourself, focus on making yourself happy, and just keep knocking on doors, they will open. Steve Martin, be so good they can't deny you. That's what you focus on.
Yeah.
So.
That's
Absolutely. And I love that you said that. And I know that you had just briefly mentioned depression. For the people that are struggling with that right now during the quarantine, reach out to people, guys.
Yeah.
All it takes is for you to reach out and watch something. And I one of the big things, and I end the show off every time, which is the comment, stay inspired. And I'm constantly working on trying to stay inspired in life. And I suggest that to all of you. And all it takes is to reach out to somebody, really and truly. I hope you do that to everyone out there.
Yeah.
And Nery, I was just going to say really quick, your closure that you say reminded me of Rob Paulson. And I, Rob always says the best medicine in life is laughter, and you can't OD and refills are free. If it wasn't
honestly, that line, I'm glad you said that, because that line is actually inspiration from Rob. And I will loop back after you tell your story, but Rob is actually one of the reasons we're even in the business.
That's true.
And that's what I'm saying. Like the full circle thing, like there's two tangents in my head I want to close. We were talking about the Ghostbusters thing. The casting director for the real Ghostbusters that did the sound alikes for that show later went on, both of them, to found Disney Character Voices. Disney Character Voices, which is the department that was in charge of character integrity, that hired Bill Farmer as Goofy, and Tony Anselmo as Donald Duck, and Russi Taylor and Wayne as Mickey, Mickey and Minnie. So it's so crazy because when you look back at the history, everything it has like a domino effect. And back in 2008 and 9, Rob Paulson started doing a podcast called Talking Tunes, which was an audio podcast that later was picked up as a video podcast on the Nerdist Network. Then was a live show again. I was working at Disneyland by day and working as a janitor by night. And I was mopping floors, and I knew this is what I wanted to do. I had no idea how I was going to get up here. And there was an episode of Talking Tunes. I want to get emotional. There was an episode of Talking Tunes where Rob was interviewing Bill Farmer. And that episode's still out there. And Bill was talking about the business he was building with his son called Toon House, which is a demo company for actors who want to get voiceover demos so they can be competitive and get agents. And in that, he listed the company address. So I heard that. I was so inspired by it. And Goofy was always the character. To go back to your earlier question, Chris, when I was a kid and I was going through some tough times, I always wanted to know what it would be like to have Goofy as a dad. I had that thought
Yeah.
as a kid. I had that thought. A Goofy movie was one of my favorite things. And to grow up and realize that like my life really led me there and just these things lined up. And it was because of Rob's podcast, I was able to get a letter to Bill Farmer, and I met Jen and Bill and Austin, their son. I now work for Toon House doing the copywriting for their demos.
So cool.
It's crazy, but it was
That's
Rob.
so cool, man.
It was
And
Rob throwing that out.
I'm going to say the same thing. And Chris, may I tell the story?
Go for it.
We would not be here if it wasn't for Talking Tunes. Now, my brother and I, since we were very young, loved voiceover. There was something about it that always inspired us. When I became friends with Chris, when you say everything's meant to happen for a reason, I truly believe that in my life. Everything has a purpose. There really is a reason.
Man.
It's serendipity. And I always say that to Chris. It's just serendipity. And everything is meant for a reason. I was a fan of voiceover. I would go to Talking Tunes. I had an extra ticket, so I invited Chris. And that's how he and I started going to Talking Tunes.
Crazy.
And we were actually at the episode that you're talking about.
We were at that Bill Farmer. We were there.
We were at that recording at Universal Studios City Walk at formerly the John Lovitz Club.
Yeah, we were there.
We were watching it.
Dude, there wasn't, because it was at the John Lovitz Club, a lot of people didn't go to actually watch it being filmed at that point. So there really wasn't that many people there. There was probably like 10 people in the audience.
12 to 15 people. And Chris and I and my brother were three of those people.
Yeah, we were three of them there.
We went every week. We never missed a Talking Tunes episode unless, when they moved it to the Improv, then they put like a age restriction limit on it.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody that was under 18 could not go.
Right.
So when I started out in this business, I was 16. So 15. I started working since I was 14 and a half. So
and he's 55 right now.
Yeah, well, in my heart and soul, I am. But
well, and Nery, we share that. You and I have been working since we were teenagers.
Very young, and it's all about, one of the things that you said about depression. I don't want to get into that mode, but sorry. I don't want to get into that mode, but one of the things that I always did was try and keep staying inspired.
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody that's watching this, when I say reach out, I mean reach out.
Yeah.
Because life is not easy for anybody. And sometimes it's the little moments in life that get us through the day. And it's all those little moments in life that build up to the most amazing life that you can make for yourself.
That's true.
And I'm telling that to everybody. Do not take solace in the one bad moment. Somebody used an example, and I don't want to lower the mood, but somebody said, when in your day, you get a certain amount of seconds in your life. And let's say for 10 of those seconds, you have a bad moment. You think it's going to ruin the day. Why let that 10 seconds ruin the 10,000 other seconds? Why? And that has been the mantra of my life. And it's thanks to my business partner right here to the left of me that I strive to every day try to give that to one of our fans that is watching this. And I strive to make sure that they get to meet some of the talent that we bring to these shows. Some of these people that, because of the work they did that saved them, because of the moral of the story they were watching, that those moments that I can give them as many seconds of the day that they can make into their lives, into moments that make them feel that they've had a fulfilled and completed life. And that's why I do it. And that's why I thank Rob Paulson. I thank Talking Tunes, because without him, we would not have the company. Chris would not have met Pat Fraley. By going to an event, serendipity, Pat was buying a paint pen, and you guys can watch our first episode of CelebWorx Live to hear the backstory. But he was buying a paint pen at the store. Chris had gone to buy toys for the Turtle event for Talking Tunes that night. He was standing behind Pat Fraley, and he saw a gentleman that was standing there looking to get a mug signed. He asked the gentleman, what kind of pen do I get the mug signed in? And the gentleman who was working the arts and crafts store didn't know. So Chris jumped right in and said, I know the pen. This is the pen you should get done. And he says, well, thank you so much for telling me I'm Pat Fraley. And Chris's mouth dropped. serendipity. It's all these little moments that connect in our lives that lead us to somewhere. And thanks to Talking Tunes, we have a company that has now over 100 clients. Many of the voice actors that we met when we were fans, and many of the talent that we met, we represent now. That is full circle.
Michael Bell being one of them.
Michael Bell, Alan Oppenheimer, Lauren Lester, Pat Rayleigh, Diane Pershing, BJ Ward. I can go on and on. But these icons, these legends that we have on our side, I don't wake up. There's not a day that I don't wake up and go, my God, I'm blessed. I am blessed. I'm here for a reason. You're here for a reason. We're all here for a reason. There's a purpose.
Nery, if you don't mind, I wanted to share one last story that I think I told you. So when I went to college, I was a theater major. And right before I graduated, I realized it'd be really tough to make a living as an actor. And I had a big crisis of faith in myself. And I had an opportunity through this college to go around the world for a 10-country trip for a semester. For a bunch of credits I didn't need, but my college tuition covered it. And I went and I traveled the world. I went to Turkey. I went to Israel. I went to Egypt. I went to Africa. I went to Argentina. Wow. I discovered so much about myself, and I discovered so much about the power of the voice and the power that we have. And I kid you not, when Wayne Allwine had passed away as the voice of Mickey Mouse, it had been kept tightly under wraps who was taking over, and it wasn't really public knowledge. There was an article at this point in college, it would have been 2012. There was an article about Brett Iwan. And I was reading it online while I was in Israel on a trip, going up this huge hike of Masada, which is a huge historical site. And I was reading this article about Brett. And I was on this trip with other people from other college groups, the theater people and the science people. And this girl who'd said one word to me this entire trip was my hiking buddy. And her name was Shirley, and I'll never forget this conversation. And Shirley and I are hiking for a couple hours in the sun. I just read this article about Brett taking over as the voice of Mickey Mouse, and it hit me that these characters had actors behind them, and that these characters have such an impact on people, and that I love these characters almost as much as I love real people I know. And even though I hadn't met Brett yet, I felt like I knew who Brett was. And so this girl asked me, what is the weirdest thing you could see yourself doing with your theater degree? This was after I was ready to give up and become a teacher and wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And it came out of my mouth. Two moments in my life, I felt this sure of something. And it just pops out of my mouth. I want to be a voice actor. I want to work for the Disney company. I someday want to voice a Disney character.
Wow.
And it just flowed. And the rest of my life after that was chasing that flow. I worked at Disneyland, and my last shift as a tour guide. So I worked at Turtle Talk, I worked attractions, and then eventually I became a tour guide. And the last shift I had before I moved up to Los Angeles was the candlelight procession at Christmas time, which is amazing. And despite anyone's religious affiliations, the Christmas spirit at Disney is just unmatched. I happen to know that because I am very close with Santa Claus there. He's an old pal. But before that happened, I was working 8 years ago now, the candlelight procession. I've been training with Bill. I'd be driving up to LA and training with Bill. I was working towards getting my demo. I was about to move. And I am in Main Street. And I see Brett Iwan. And I knew what he looked like because I read that article and this guy had inspired me. And I got huffy and sweaty. And he recounts the story now because I was, for lack of a better word, I was verklempt. And I was like, not looking at him. I was like, Mr. Iwan, my name is Brock Powell. I'm a student of Bill Farmer's. You're such an inspiration, and I'm going to be a voice actor someday. And just really in full race dance. And it was so crazy because it was the first time he had been recognized out in public. And now we are friends. We are very close friends.
Yeah.
I am such an admirer of Brett and his heart and his spirit.
so glad that you said that. And that's what I was going to say. Brett Iwan, like we were talking about Rob Gibbs, is one of those people, such a rarity in life, that you can walk up and feel loved.
Yeah.
I hate, I'm not allowed to say this, I'm not supposed to, but when people go, that person is that character.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Brett is Mickey Mouse, but I will say that the love that people feel from that character, Brett as a person has that power. He's got that aura.
I agree.
And it's something that cannot be bought, and it cannot be taught. And he's got it. And him, and it's thanks. I think a lot of it has to do with how he was raised and his family, because his mom and dad
love
are
phenomenal people.
Phenomenal people. But he has a warmth to him. And I can, when we met Brett, there's so many nights that I would not trade a single conversation I've had with Brett, because some of those conversations I can remember that have changed my life. I was actually talking to Brett, not to take us off course.
No, you're not.
Talking to Brett in Minneapolis, and he and I were, we're eating, I think we were having dinner at a restaurant, and we were just having a conversation. And I just remember after that conversation going, you know what, I need to change something in my life, and I need that moment, and I need to figure something out. And that conversation led to something that you had brought up earlier, which is if you say it and speak it into the atmosphere, it will happen.
Yeah.
And a couple weeks later, I was at another show. Brett, again, we were talking, and Chris and I were at a bar, and literally I said something out loud. I went home the next day and changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I got to. It's got to be done. And literally, Chris knows the day that it happened.
I was sitting there with you when it happened.
And I'm now. I mean, it's now been 5 months. I've almost lost 100 pounds.
Wow.
And it's crazy, because I feel like a new person. And a lot of people that knew me when I was younger, they say, Nery, I think you're back. And I feel back.
Yeah.
I feel like I found myself again.
And I say this for everybody that knows you. We're so proud of you. Like, you've done such an amazing job.
And I appreciate that. And,
we
Brock,
love you.
And you're one of those people too. You have a great ability, and we've had a lot of serious conversations, about life and maintaining positivity and maintaining, living a natural and fulfilled life. And that's the key, right? And that's what we all are striving for. And so that's what we're trying to do with this show, is trying to give people the ability to have a vehicle in terms of, whether it's your passion or your drive, to move you forward in your day. That's the key of this show. So, I know we're constantly going back full circle, but
I actually, it's funny. I always look at the feed here, and this is very relevant to what's going on. I'm sure we're going to come across it here in a second. But Fiona Iwan is actually watching, and she wrote, "But I love you guys more than Brett does."
Oh, I see it. Wait, time out. So if Fiona's watching, because I literally was going to say this, Fifi, I love you. I still owe you for the Mark Hamill incident, which is really famous at this point. I out fanboyed Fiona at a D23 event and got a picture with Mark Hamill.
What?
And yes, what? And I ditched her.
I think she got you back because she wrote, Brock, what is on your face? So she got you back.
Oh, it's a quarantine, Fiona. It's really in right now. It's a quarantine. Yeah. It's I'm just trying to do my best Robert Downey Jr. He makes a lot of money, so I figure maybe if I start doing this, people will think that I'm him.
That was pretty good.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I should do it for a living.
Well, I think that unfortunately we're not gonna ask our last couple of questions. We'll probably move on to the fans and see what they got to say. But honestly, I mean, everything that we've said, I mean, it was well worth talking about. I mean, our questions didn't really delve into what we were talking about anyway.
Guys, I can always come back on.
We gladly will have you back on. So let's go over some of the fan questions so they don't kill us after we're done taping.
Yeah.
Favorite Kool-Aid character, crossover ad, and why?
Favorite Kool-Aid character, crossover ad, and why? Great question. I'd have to say the one with Flo was a blast. As a kid, I was always a huge fan of Kool-Aid on Family Guy. That's voiced by Seth MacFarlane. Not that that's a commercial, but I'm a huge sucker for that one too. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Peter Gould, which would Brock prefer to do, voice impressions or voice matching?
Hey Peter, great question. So voice impressions are so much fun to do, but I tell people that impressions are like chopsticks or heart and soul, those piano things that you learn to do. You don't get to Carnegie Hall and play chopsticks.
Right.
The impressions are really important, and they're fundamentally how character voices are created. So I use a lot of bad impressions, which was advice that was given to Bill Farmer, my mentor, by his mentor, Dawes Butler. And Dawes called himself a bad impressionist. So I do a lot of bad impressions. On the most recent episode of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I did a bad TJ Miller. I was doing a very bad TJ Miller. I love voice matching because anytime I get to do voice matching, it means that I'm keeping a character alive. And that's a huge responsibility, and that's a big thing and a big part of my heart. So yeah, I would say voice matching is an honor, and voice impressions are a joy. So take your pick.
Peter Bassan says, Brock is a great guy. My pop was the first he ever signed.
That's right,
That's
Peter.
cool.
I remember that.
I remember that guy. Yeah, that was at Pasadena, right?
I know it was at Toyzilla.
Oh, Toyzilla.
On my birthday. That was.
Yeah, we love you, Christy. I just want you to know we love you.
Can we talk about Christy Sproul, by the way? My first
sure
friend in voiceover.
We love her so much.
And she's one of the reasons you're a client of ours. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did know that. And she and I met at the premiere of I Know That Voice. We sat next to her.
We were there too.
We were there too.
We were right.
Isn't this crazy?
That's so crazy. How much of voiceover do you think is something you can learn in classes, workshops, and how much do you think is innate and that's not able to be learned? I love that question. Okay. Pretend is innate. I truly believe that everybody has the ability to play pretend. I think people who have the courage to play pretend louder than others is a skill. I think that there are just some people that are gifted with a wide range of sounds they can make. But more important than talent and more important than range is fearlessness and kindness and openness. Because if you're directable, if you can take direction, that is more important than coming in with a strong notion. Because I know 100 actors that are more talented than me. But one of the things that I hear is that it's easy to work with me because I'm not attached to it. It's not about my version of it. It goes back to our job as voice actors is to communicate the writer's intent and keep these characters alive. So it's not ego. It's not personal. When it comes to the acrobatics and impressions, some people can't do them. Some people are stronger at accents. Everyone's got skill sets. We learn as children how to form language and phonate sound based on mimicking. So it's something that to some extent everybody can do. It's just a matter of if they want to. And
one of the things Christy did say is there's a lot of people that think they can do it but really can't. And I'm going to say something about that, Christy. I don't think it's that some people can't do it. I think there's a lot of people with a lot of different voices. It's a matter of people that are trying to match somebody else. That's why they can't do it. Is they're so focused on trying to be that person instead of being themselves and making a new character with their voice and their flair. That's what I think is the distinction. So just putting that out there. And I have to put this out because of my brother. He puts, who gave this guy in the red shirt a webcam?
We love
the same guy that buys your food. That's who.
Oh, hey,
yeah.
Just tell Alex that if he needs a place to crash, while this whole thing blows over, this feud between you, he can come over here.
After tonight, definitely going to be thinking about
Chateau
it.
de Kool-Aid.
Renee Jacobs says, "Hi guys, you're all
Renee.
Love you, Renee.
Renee and I. We did the TMNT thing at Talking Tunes. By the way, we didn't even talk about this. Rob pulled me up to play the Shredder in a full Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle reunion with Renee there and Townie and everybody. And Bill played Splinter. Just gosh, what a joy. She's I love her.
Brock, we loved having you on. Can you tell people where they can find you, things to follow, anything to plug?
Yeah, I'm under the bridge on Burbank, and I'm just kidding. You can find me on Instagram under
Brock the river in a van.
In a van down by the river. You can find me at Brock Talks on Instagram, Brock Vox on Twitter. I'm at brocktalks.com on the interwebs. Brock Powell on everything else. And yeah.
And for anybody that doesn't know, Brock and Bill Farmer do demos. So let's say that you are really serious of trying to be a commercial or professional voice actor.
Yep.
Reach out to Toonhouse Inc.
Yep.
Reach
Toonhouse.
out to Toonhouse Incorporated. If you're looking for a demo, they're some of the best in the business.
Agreed.
Now, we're approaching the end of our show, but before we take off, Chris wants to tell you a few things.
Yes, I do. On our next show, we are planned for next Sunday, 5 p.m. Pacific, and we want to announce our special guest for next week's program, celebrating our 10th episode. We have no other than, and look at Brock's face,
Oppie.
Alan Skeletor Oppenheimer, which
it's going to be
I'm sure is going to love that one.
It's going to be the 10th episode. It's going to be his first live streamed interview.
Yeah, and that's a big achievement because he doesn't, he's getting up there and we love him to death. He's one of our favorite people in the world. He's immensely talented and some of the best characters ever on this planet he has done.
Yeah.
So,
and he's another one of the most genuine human beings. He's a fellow Taurus. So I love him. And tune in. You won't want to miss it. It's a big deal. You won't want to miss it.
I love it. Taurus rising, by the way, Nery. I didn't know that.
Oh, well, we'll talk about it after the show. And Chris, take it away.
All right. Once again, this is Chris Arsaga. You can follow me at The Real Arsaga. And in the words of my friend Robin Williams, Carpe diem, seize the day, make your lives extraordinary.
And this has been Nery Lemus, and you can follow me at The Real Nery Lemus on Instagram. Just leaving you with this small reminder: keep your feet on the ground, always reach for the stars, and never forget to stay inspired. Night, everyone.
Night, everybody.